Hello, baby. Hello,
Hello.
everybody. Welcome to What the Franklin with that's Nikki Medoro right there. I'm Chip Franklin, and our special guest. I think I can see that enough.
Leave Brittany alone. I'm going to say it every time you do that to the poor lady. Jeez.
Wow. So this is a big day. It's of course it's the end of the first week of the trial, the hush money trial, and Stormy Daniels has been, in my mind, just spectacular. I think that she stood up to attacks on her personality, and I learned a lot about this woman, and a little bit about the porn industry, at least from the other side of it, and her net worth is really, she's got a huge net worth.
Well, yeah, she does.
Yeah,
I'm sure her status and her popularity has gone up since her
yeah,
name became, household fodder.
I think a lot of people are like me in that they, um, when they, first of all, just this is a trial about fraudulent business forms, right?
Yes.
And then you have all these things about a mushroom shaped penis and spankings, right? But I think what they're trying to do, I mean, at the heart of this is the Trump defense team is trying to say that there was no money given to her to
Right.
shut up.
Right.
And of course, we have her testimony. We have Michael Cohen, and then we have the check given to somebody to be quiet for something that he says he didn't do 10 years after it happened and right before the election. I mean, to me, it's a slam dunk, unless there's somebody in there that is a Trump loyalist in that jury, which
there could be.
I mean, it happens all the time.
Exactly.
Yeah. When I was working, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I mean, the Stormy Daniels and all that testimony, it adds spice to a case that's really quite boring. It's a paper trail case. You know what I mean? Yeah. That's what it really is.
When they laid out these cases out, everybody looked at this one and said, psh, and they, they saw the January 6th, and then they saw the documents case, of which may never see a courtroom, depending on what happens in the fall.
Yeah.
But this, and again, that's a whole nother thing. We're going to talk about Judge Cannon and this immunity thing with the Supreme Court. But in this case, actually what it does, it's really at the core of who Donald Trump is that he will lie in any particular time he thinks it benefits him.
Of course. And
then he'll lie about the lie, and then he'll bring in people to lie about the lie about the lie. He's $500 million fine facing this one about in New York, where he had an apartment building and he would lie about the size and worth of it for taxes. But then when he wanted to borrow money, he would inflate it.
Of course.
And that's fraud. That should have been a criminal trial, but it was a civil case. I think because maybe a statute of limitations or something. But, the civil part of that was the one that, again, the fine came down to, I think, 175 million from $500 million. And he's dying for money right now. If you saw the latest, he went in front of these oil.
Yeah. $1 billion. Give me $1 billion and I'll ruin the planet just for you.
He was going to act. He told them straight out, I'll lower taxes for you if you give me money, which, nowadays it doesn't matter anymore. He's obviously violated so many laws.
Exactly.
But back to this case. So what I saw here, and I think, two things that came out of this is that, and by the way, we want to hear from you guys. Let me get my glasses back on, and we will listen to it. Well, I'd love to hear what you guys have to say about all this. We'll get to your comments coming up in just a second. But I'm kind of curious. I'm going to ask this question to everybody listening right now and moving forward. What are your thoughts on Stormy Daniels? And she's unlike, Ted Cruz or Marco Rubio or Rand Paul or any of these other, these cuckolds. She stood up and said, I'm not afraid of you.
Yeah.
She had her life threatened and has her, again, the defense was really tough on her, but, I mean, she's a mom and she's tough and, and you can disapprove of her occupation, right? And many people do.
It's a legal job though.
What's that?
It's a legal job though. I mean, she wasn't breaking any laws and, I do think that they're trying to, and I mean, Trump and the defense dismiss her testimony. But it's going to be interesting because on one hand, they're like, she's lying. It never happened. And yet they still have to defend themselves against very detailed testimony, not only coming from, of course, Michael Cohen now, but Stormy Daniels. I mean, that's why I think she was so descriptive in her testimony.
Well, I think that, they, I think some of it was there actually to rattle Trump.
Yeah.
I think,
he hates being quiet.
Well, yeah, and not being able to stand up and scream at her, and of course, that's the latest. Merchan, Judge Merchan, I think is this close to putting him in jail. I know he does not want to, and I don't want him to either. I don't
I
want.
don't either. I think that it's just going to be the biggest distraction ever. But at the same time, it is again this example of Donald Trump being above all the other laws that the rest of us lowly Americans need to follow. If the average American violated a gag order as many times as he did, what 10 times we're up to,
Right.
our ass would be in jail. But it doesn't happen to Donald Trump because it might be a distraction. We're trying to give me a break. Laws
Right.
are laws are laws. And if you want to be president of the United States, you should want all the laws to be put into effect. But of course, he doesn't.
By the way, that is Nikki Medoro. If you just tuned in, and this is something new that we're doing, and I think a big part of this is what we want to do. Let me see. Did I not? How come our names? Did you type your name in? How come we're
I
not in
did.
here?
I don't know why it erased. I saw it earlier.
Huh.
It's okay. I'm Nikki Medoro. It's right there.
I know. I wonder
Picture of
why it's not
Franklin.
in here. Interesting. That would be on my side here. I apologize for doing this to you guys, but it's not showing up. Anyway, all right. But so there's actually another sidebar story to this. I guess kind of a sidebar, and that is the arrest or headed to jail of Steve Bannon.
Yeah, that's
Um,
some good news. Finally, some
yeah.
good news with that guy.
Thanks to Amy for this comment. Again, Bannon is going to jail. Finally, D.C. court upheld a conviction of contempt of Congress. I can't believe nobody's reporting on that besides Forbes and Politico. That's a fat cup of justice to sip on. I couldn't agree more. Bannon, of course,
A unanimous 3-judge panel is sending him to jail. So that's good.
Bannon, of course, was convicted, if you guys don't remember, of stealing money from the Build the Wall fund. Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
He had raising money and from this fund from Trumpers who will apparently throw money at anything that's not a Democrat. And he was convicted of stealing this money, and of course, Trump and sentenced to jail, and Trump pardoned him. Again, another just spit in the face to Trump fans. It's unbelievable. But
Bannon was sentenced to 4 months in 2022 for refusing to appear before the January 6th committee and not producing documents. He blamed it on bad counsel. But apparently now the 3-judge panel is saying you're full of crap, which we all knew anyway. Because Bannon goes on his podcast and goes and gives all these interviews saying he's not going to do anything he doesn't want to do. And he's the architect of all of this nonsense. I mean, honestly, I'm glad that he's going to jail or wherever or prison. It can't happen soon enough, though. That's all I have to say.
Yeah. By the way, Nikki is doing her own 8-minute commentaries, and you can find them on Really American. If you're new to this, and we appreciate you being here, this is something we're going to do every Friday, kind of a week in review, what's happened that week.
Mm-hmm.
And also to invite your comments and read as many of them as we can. Like Kenneth here, if he is sent to jail, the judge should make it perfectly clear he was paying for every penny of it. I mean, again, getting money from Trump is always interesting. He manages to stiff everybody from contractors to the government, and
which we knew when he was running for president the first time. Everybody was saying he doesn't pay his bills, contractors, everyone was saying it. And then all of a sudden he's not paying his bills and people are surprised. No, this is his MO. He is consistent. I will say that Donald Trump is quite consistent.
Yeah. I think a part of this is when I think about what's going on inside the actual trial. And we haven't heard from Cohen, so I don't think it's today because I think they're off today, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Michael Cohen. No, they're in court
They're
today.
On today. Okay, yeah,
they are in court today, but it's kind of boring today. It's kind of going over social media posts because the defense is basically not allowing the prosecutors to say, yes, this is a social media post. Yes, this is a tweet. So they have to bring some woman on to say, yes, that is an actual tweet that was actually sent. So today's kind of boring, but it's a Friday kind of dump type of day. Monday, Michael Cohen Monday. So we shall see. But again, this is a guy, Michael Cohen, who has a very long documented history with Donald Trump. For Donald Trump and the defense to try to make out like, oh, Michael Cohen was just somebody on the payroll. Trump didn't really know him. I mean, give me a break over here. It's gonna be a hard sell. Let's just say that.
Yeah. I think one of the creepiest things that came from this week was these comments that apparently Trump told Stormy Daniels she reminded him of Ivanka. Can that guy, I mean, can he get any more creepy?
Mm.
that relationship with his daughter,
I
right?
know, I know. He's like, "You're beautiful, just like my." He has a thing for
You
his
think?
daughter. I'm just saying. I mean, he likes his women, blonde and young. So, but it's also been interesting, and they were talking about this earlier this morning. None of his family has been out there. I think
Oh,
maybe
right.
Eric
Yeah.
came
Yeah.
out, but nobody's like Ivanka, Jared. They're not sitting in the courtroom.
No. No.
Now
Right.
you could play it like, oh, it's because it's a nonsense trial, but it's a criminal trial for your dad. Like, you think they'd show up once in a while. I know why Melania is not there. He could sit and spin for all she cares, I'm sure, but she's humiliated.
They released that tape of her assistant had taped her right after the Stormy stuff broke in
Mhm.
2018, and where she was calling her, what I forget, some kind of whore or something along those
Oh
lines.
god, yeah. I mean, which is a bit rich, right? But I mean, you
What do you
well,
mean?
no. I mean, she posed naked for Playboy. You
That made
can't
her a
be calling
whore.
out Stormy Daniels as a whore.
I love
Sorry.
it.
I mean, let's say the bar isn't that different between the two occupations. I'm not knocking either.
No,
Make your
no.
money, ladies.
Yeah.
Make your money. But I'm just saying it's a bit rich for Melania to act like she's on this
So
high horse.
the photographs of Trump in court have not been flattering.
Mm-mm.
And um, I keep thinking about like these we've been talking to cognitive psychologists, and
It's a waste of
dementia.
time to go into the cognitive dissidence of Donald Trump, but
Oh, I
okay.
mean, yeah,
Is
it's
it
just like,
crazy, really? Just this week, it was reported that an illegal alien, and you just look at this. What?
right? I mean, his brain just
Don't
gets,
don't pay any attention to my mumblings. It's fine.
yeah, and I mean, anybody that's over 50, like you, and
I am not over
not
50,
over 50.
mister. I am not
I'm
over
messing.
50.
I do this with you. Anyway, but I am. So, but you do have moments where like, what the hell did I do? Why did I come in here for? Those kind of
Right.
moments, right?
Yeah.
And so, and again, I hesitate to. The only reason I mock Trump unmercifully
Mm.
and thumbface Hannity as well is because of what they've said about Joe Biden, and which of
Yeah.
course is proven to be entirely wrong. I mean, he's already shown this, the State of the Union, and then since then, at the Correspondents' Dinner, the guy shows there's none of that's happening there. Again, his speech impediment and his advanced age causes him to talk slowly. But
Yeah.
apparently, even Republicans that have spoken to him, Lindsey Graham said this not long ago, that he didn't see any cognitive failure at all
No.
on him, which I found, the media seemed to miss that. Of course, Fox News will not report anything that report. I mean, they do have people occasionally, like Jessica Tarloff on the
Yeah.
5, and God, is there anybody else over there that? Well, occasionally, like is Judge Nia, how do you say his name?
Napolitano?
Napolitano. Thank you. Is he still on that?
I do not. My remote it doesn't flip to that channel. I've tried and it just doesn't go. So I have no idea what's on Fox News. Sorry.
Let's run through some of these comments again. Thank you so much for being here. Let's start with Richard. Richard says, have you checked out any of these ghost towns? Migrant can move there. The word, when he talked about migrant crime in that interview with Laura Ingraham, when he admitted to, and next week, I don't want to take too much time playing clips, but he admitted to the fact that he spiked that immigration bill because it would help Democrats.
Of course.
Right?
Of course he did.
And then we had Mike Johnson on this week, again on with Fox and Friends, saying that they're going to round up 11 million people, and he thinks that's a great idea. And
what does
anybody have
even
any
look
idea?
like? What does that even? They look at what happened on like college campuses. You think I mean, that's a small thing. How are you going to round up people? Round up people. This is America 2024. I can't even imagine what that would look like on the news. It would be mayhem. Mayhem.
The other little bit of a story that came out of that, did you see where Florida has drafted Barron Trump as a delegate?
Yeah, for the Republican National Convention. And then did you see that Trump got his name or his age wrong? Speaking of, cognitive decline. Now he did just turn 18, but you'd think you'd remember that your son just turned 18, in March or something like that?
Part of his brain probably has that. He just doesn't have access to that part of his brain all the time, right?
You're older.
I think that there's something about this that saddens me. I love the fact that's one thing I'll say about Trump is that they have not put this kid out on a stage because there's some issues there, right?
Well, I don't know. They haven't put him out. I think a lot of people think that he's on the spectrum, which is fine. Like
A lot
a
of
lot of
people. I'm
people
on the
are.
freaking spectrum.
But
Everybody,
I mean, we know. And I'm not. I'm just making a joke. It's fine. It's just I think that people saw him as a kid. He just turned 18. It might become fair game pretty soon, though. You know what I mean? So he was a kid
I don't know.
before. Now he's
I
not.
remember what Rush Limbaugh did to Chelsea back in the
Exactly.
90s, and it's horrible
Exactly.
stuff, you know.
Exactly.
But part of this is just, oh yeah, this was a story this week too. Thanks,
Oh
Uncle
my
Russ.
God.
Yeah, brainworms.
What
So let
the
me get this straight. One candidate is in diaper. The other has a worm in his brain,
that he
and
ate. That he ate. He
and
ate
the
it.
other guy has a roaring economy. So there's a problem here. What? Yeah,
And it's close in the polls. It's close in the polls. That's why
yeah.
I don't believe polls. I don't believe polls. Ever since Clinton Trump, I will not believe any polls. You can come to me with every poll you want to, and I'll be like, nope, not till the election is over. Will I believe anything?
Yeah. Yeah, George, that's yeah.
Ooh.
He does, there's so much of this is just so strange. Now, this is something too about the trial. This comes from AJ, and he's right. If Trump's convicted and gets 1 to 3 years, he will be remanded to jail before his appeal, but he'll have options for bail. I mean, he
Yeah.
will be remanded, but he'll be able to post bail
And
or
there's nothing
released
in
on
the
his recognizance. Probably, he's not going anywhere right
Yeah, and
now.
there's nothing in the Constitution that you can't be convicted of a crime and not run for president or be president of the United States. I
Oh, he
mean,
could theoretically be
he
president
could
from
be
jail.
president from jail or prison or whatever.
That would be interesting.
I mean, it would
Um,
be typical, but whatever.
From all the legal commentators I'm listening, there needs to be a connection between Trump and the false recording of the payments. I fear that may be hard to prove. Let me. I'm not an attorney, but I stayed at a Holiday Inn. But I can I can answer some of this. They, to me, this all centers on the timing, right? The fact that the money was channeled to Cohen to give,
Mhm.
and the falsification of the records for that, but it's the timing. If he had done this in 2013, or the affair apparently, or the sex took place in 2006. So if he'd have done this in 2009 or 10 or the day after, but coming in like inside the month before the election, trying to keep her quiet about this particular
Right.
affair. And if I recall correctly, this preceded the grab him by the pussy comments, right? So yeah, it
I
did.
mean, it had to have been right around the same time. I mean,
Right,
both of
right.
those things happened around the same time.
So yeah, so to me, the way I understand it, and the attorneys I've talked to says the timing is the key here. It shows that what he was doing and the reason he was doing it, and
And how he was explaining the payment. I mean, it's falsifying business records. It's the
right,
cover up. Like if he would have just said yes and put it down as paying off woman I had sex with, right? I mean, and now use it from a certain fund, then okay. But he didn't want to because he's a cheap ass. The thing is, he could have just paid it in cash. Like it's just,
right,
like you could have just gone to the bank, got
right.
$130,000 in cash, given it to Stormy Daniels. You would have none of these problems.
He's
But
not even a good criminal.
exactly,
He's not even a good criminal.
It's so stupid.
Yeah, I mean, so much of I when I talk to my friends that don't dive into this stuff all day, I love to hear their thoughts about what's going to happen. And so many of them are saying that, all of this is window dressing, and it will probably influence some people to Biden's side, but it's going to come down to the economy over the summer, and the perception of that, what the Fed does, with how it affects inflation. Inflation is still, 3.5%, and they want it down to 2%. But it's still 11 or 12% in Great Britain, France,
Yeah,
many of the EU
exactly. Where
companies.
Biden is not president,
Right. I mean, I think this is to me, the thing that bothers me, I think the most about this trial moving forward is that Judge Cannon, excuse me, has indefinitely delayed the documents trial, which to me is a slam dunk case, obviously, because we have so many witnesses. We have the guys that were told to destroy the documents by Trump with witnesses.
moving them around. Well, again, and it's so delayed that it's going to happen after the election. And God forbid Trump does win re-election, which knock on wood, it doesn't happen. But if it does, then it's never going to trial And he is now president again with classified documents. So he's never faced consequences for what he allegedly did. And now he's probably going to do it all over again because he has nothing to lose. I mean, literally, he is, and I don't want to like be ageist here, but he's so old that he really has nothing to lose. Even if you threw him in jail, I mean, how long is he going to live? It's just, it's dangerous. It's a dangerous option for America. Let's just say that.
Actually, Chuck says here that inflation in the UK is 2%. That's not what I just read, but I have some friends that just got back from there, so I'll look into that. Thank you for the comment. But more demand from the Trump family placed upon the American public. We'll be watching everything that Bannon is getting into for our own protection. I honestly think that once Trump's gone, we'll never hear from these guys again.
Oh yeah,
you know, and part of that. Oh, there we are. And part of this, I think, is just the idea that Trump came at a perfect time with social media and just this natural. Well, a great example of that would be UFOs. You and I talk about this all the time. Anybody that believes in UFOs coming from other planets outside our solar system is not well versed in physics. I mean, whatever no, seriously. I mean, it's not.
We disagree on this all the time. So
well, because you make shit up, and I'm telling the facts.
No, facts you don't know facts.
Yes, I do. How about this? The closest star to us, going the speed of light, would still take close to 7 years.
Whatever.
So
we're not going to debate UFOs.
No, you can't travel faster than the speed of light. You can maybe
on Earth.
No, anywhere. It's universal physical. Seriously,
you want to talk about black holes and
space-time
continuums and all those sorts of things. Talk about quantum physics, and the closer you look at something, things are the same way they are here on hard Earth. So let's stop.
But again, Newtonian physics, to your point, okay? And if you guys haven't seen this story, there's a new story out. Chuck Schumer and others were talking about the government may have some, space aliens and it's just, it makes me so sad when supposedly smart people start talking about this. There are UFOs, but they're natural phenomena that occur around our planet. They're not coming from other places.
You don't all subscribe to Chip Franklin's belief in this. I'm just going down on record on saying this.
Well, good, because you're insane. There is no anyway, but it's another story that popped up, and but what I want to do here real quick is we're going to get to your comments in just a second. Again, this is Nikki Medoro. I'm Chip Franklin. This is What the Franklin. We do this on Fridays, kind of a thank you for the week and taking your comments, talking about some of the events that are happening. Both of us post. We post 8-minute videos and sometimes longer commentaries on Really American Media. Please subscribe if you haven't already. If you're looking at this on Twitter, please jump on over to YouTube and subscribe. Again, it's Really American Media, or just Really American What the Franklin. You'll see it all right there. And subscribe, join us, and get notifications. We'll let you know when we have new videos out. We have a lot of great people creating them, so please be part of it. All right. So Apple came out with a new ad. Now, this ad it's getting they actually apologized for the ad and pulled it. But when you watch it, I think it's interesting to try to understand what their approach was. The ad is for the new iPad Pro, right?
Okay.
Which I like.
I have not seen this ad yet, so this is new to me too.
So it's well, anyway, you'll watch it and listen to it, and then we'll talk about it in just 60 seconds here. All right. Okay. So
okay.
Everybody's saying they destroyed art. And this is another case of technology destroying art to try to create something that is just an object, and not because all those things. I mean, first of all, it was stupid to destroy them. I would have, what I would have done? I would have had a guy or a cartoon of a guy holding a bag and sticking a piano in there and sticking guitar.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I was getting the image of like squishing all those things into the iPad. But the destruction of it all.
It's the exact opposite, where all of the clowns come out of the car.
Exactly.
So we're fitting all this stuff into this Mac Pro, and that's the way it should have gone. But of course, right now it's hip to make fun of Facebook, Apple, and all these others. And I'm not saying that they don't deserve a good kick in the ass now and then.
Right.
But I didn't. Wendy and I were watching this, and I came away with the ideas like, oh well, they blew an opportunity. I don't think it's horrible, but how many people did that go through people that said, yeah, that looks
You
good.
know, I will say this. I mean, again, that's literally the first time I saw that ad. I don't I don't know if I have such a visceral reaction to it as other people are like, "Oh my god, you destroyed the human experience." I would just say it wasn't what they were going for, which is squeezing all of the art, the human experience into the iPad. That it missed the mark there. But I'm not really that outraged about the destruction. Obviously, those were not real pieces of art. Those were real guitars and toys and things like that, and
You
a
know, the
real
one with
piano.
the
I
emoji
know.
and the eyes shoot out. I mean, there's so much about. I mean, first of all, you know, I'm doing this on an Apple. I have a Mac Studio. I mean, I've invested a lot in Apple and gotten 1,000 to 1 return. It's been a
Right.
great experience for me in the last 20 years, 25 years working on their products. I was an early investor. I made some decent money. I love Apple. Do they have problems? Yeah. Was
Yeah.
Steve Jobs an asshole? Yes. You know, I would highly recommend that book called Steve Jobs, written by Walter Isaacson, who was a tremendous biographer. And he's actually written another book about technology too. There's a couple books. He's really good. He wrote a book by Einstein. But anyway, looking at Apple and where they are today, I think that you know, again, I consider myself woke, but many of these companies have come under the crazy woke part of this. You know, the part that we all
Mhm.
talk about, right? You know,
Yeah. I mean,
like
I hate that term woke. I think that it's overused. I think that, when we're talking about just being inclusive, that should just be like being a good human being type of thing. It doesn't need to be woke. Because of course the right has co-opted that term, but yeah, I don't know. Apple just missed the mark. Sometimes they have really great ads, sometimes they just don't.
yeah. Well, I mean, yeah. Again, they started this all out with the 1984 ad. Remember?
Exactly,
Yeah, back in
exactly.
the 80s. Yeah. All right. So again, I'm Chip Franklin. This is Nikki Medoro,
This
and
is
this is what
live, by the way. I mean,
this is
there
all
seems to be
live. Yeah.
some
So did somebody
confusion.
not understand this?
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know why
No, this
people
is
think
all
it's
live.
recorded. We're
As
live.
live as we can possibly get.
Hi,
You know.
Ricky. Hi, Mama.
Yeah. It's your brain on drugs. No, I've been playing that in my videos recently. I went back and found that, and it reminds me so much of the Bill Hicks bit. The comedian, he would say, he goes, "That's your brain. That's your brain on drugs. Got any question?" He goes, "Yeah." And he said, "Why is an alcoholic telling me not to do drugs?" Because the guy sounded like his big old, "There's your brain. There's
I
your brain
love
on
Bill
drugs."
Hicks. That guy,
I
it's
miss
so
Bill.
sad that he's
Yeah.
gone. But yeah, if I have gone back and watched so much of his stand up, and it's so funny. Definitely holds up.
Yeah, and we were talking about that with my kids. We were going to play golf yesterday afternoon, and my son loves Bill Hicks. In fact, he walks around going halftime going because he does this thing. But half the time I go, Dad, and I go, what? And he goes, you think if Jesus one, do you think if when Jesus comes back, he's ever going to see a fucking cross?
I know exactly. It's like, really, is that the image that you chose? There was so many other images you could have chosen, but yeah, that's the one.
Anyway, all right. So one of the other stories today is this big geomagnetic electric storm that's supposed to hit us this afternoon. Have you heard about this?
No. Oh,
Oh, it's a
great.
huge
Another
deal.
one.
A solar storm is going to be hitting us sometime this afternoon, and they say it could affect the internet. I got my fingers crossed. It's a geomagnetic storm. It's going to threaten power grids, GPS, internet interruptions, radio
Oh,
blackouts,
fabulous.
Europe,
When is
Asia, and
this
Africa.
supposed to happen?
This afternoon sometime, I
No.
guess. It's coming well, it's a part of the sun that's actually cooler than the other part, and that's what causes this, way I understand it,
Mm.
this is uncommonly powerful thing.
This is when the UFOs come. They come during
You're
this
high.
moment. They
Just
hide right
don't
there.
stop doing drugs. Just really.
Ever.
Anyway, so yeah, I got a great picture here, and maybe I can upload it so we can take a peek at that. I'll give that a shot in just a second. But I think, again, we find ourselves in these strange times. And one of the things that, have you been following the latest asteroid that's supposed to strike in like 2056?
Ugh.
Oh, there's going to come one. There's
I only
going to
have
be
so much
one.
bandwidth, my friend. I mean, I
There's going
can't
to
be
be
worried about
one
things in
that
2056.
comes in between the Earth and the Moon,
Okay.
which is only 200,000 miles.
Oh, it's
And
close.
it's about the size of a football stadium. So it's sayonara. But here's the kicker.
Uh-huh.
If it comes to a small little portal
Mhm.
of time, not
Mhm.
space time, but in time and physicality. I'm sounding like an idiot here. But anyway, if it goes through that hole, the
Uh-huh.
next time around, it could be really close.
Like,
Like
Still not anywhere close to us, though.
We don't
in
know.
the grand scheme
it
of
doesn't
things.
take when it's, it can actually hit something out there and change its direction, or
Right.
what actually keeps us from getting hit by asteroids is Jupiter. Jupiter has such a strong
Pulls it.
gravitational pull.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, again, as long as it's instant, I could not care less. Like,
And I'll be dead by then. I'm watching from the other side.
exactly. Like, as long as it's like the Terminator scene, you know what I mean? Where it's like,
Yeah.
whoosh.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
fine.
know what you hate.
I'm not gonna care at that
What
point.
you hate is if they told us the world would end in a year.
Exactly. And then mass hysteria, that freaks me out. Like, nope, I'm gonna go hide. No, mass hysteria.
You don't
freaks
like
me
The
out.
Walking Dead and those shows with all that.
I don't. I
hysteria.
mean, I like scary movies, so I will watch that stuff. But again, I'm not massive. People are animals at their core. And
Did you watch World War Z with Brad Pitt?
Yes, I love that. Love to have
that was all dystopian. That was scary as hell.
I like dystopian things. I just don't want it to be reality, my friend. That's what I'm saying.
You know who wrote that book?
Let me know.
It's my friend Max Brooks.
What?
Max Brooks wrote that book.
Oh, did he?
Yeah. In fact, he actually is he advises a military. The book is supposed to be a metaphor for how to deal with chaotic situations,
Okay.
Which we may have another one if I can jump stories again. The latest on bird flu and avian transmission. It's frightening. We've seen it now with passing from mammal to mammal. However, passing to human is going to be different. And this hasn't happened. If it did, avian flu tends to have a 50% fatality rate. That's the frightening part of this.
For animals.
SARS and MERS both had high rates, but they had low transmission potential, right?
Again,
bird flu has high transmission potential.
I can only
you can't go
care
there
about things. Like, I remember when COVID was like just in the news and you looked at me, you're like, are you freaked out about it? And I'm like, nah, what am I going to worry about? You know what I mean? And then I was eating those words really quickly, but I can't, man. I can't.
No, we were on together.
This.
You and I were on together.
That.
We were on together in San Francisco when COVID first started.
Yes.
Do you remember how we covered it? I can't recall.
Exactly. So I remember you looked at me because remember the ship was coming in, the cruise ship, and it was going to be docked in San Francisco. And everyone was like,
just January, February? What was it? Somewhere in there?
This had to have been, January. It had to have been January. And so,
wait a second. When did you switch to the morning show? When did we stop working together?
I think it was like March 1st.
Of
so and COVID
2020?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
I got my show and then the world
the world ended. Yeah. Well, I think there's somebody trying to tell you something right
exactly.
there.
But no, I remember you're like, the cruise ship was there and you were kind of freaking out about it. And I was like, no. But then Tom Hanks and Steph Curry and they shut down the NBA. And I was like, oh, wow, they're really serious.
I would fly at that particular time. I was living, I had a house in San Francisco, but my wife had gone back down to San Diego.
Yeah.
Smart woman. And so I would fly on the weekends back and forth. So I was on a plane in like the third week in January. And I got on a plane and I always would sit in the front, Southwest. So I'd sit in the very front little cockpit seat almost.
Yeah.
And about 15 Asian kids came on, all wearing masks, all of them, which is not unusual. I've seen it over the years flying. And the Asian culture is much more polite. If they feel sick.
Masks are normalized within their culture. Yeah.
And so this guy turned to me and he goes, there's something going on in a town called Wuhan. And, and this is in early January before we really heard anything about it. And I was like, really? And he goes, yeah. And he goes, I got an extra mask if you want one. I said, okay. And I did. And I came back and I told Wendy, this guy told me we have to wear masks. And, and he says that this could be a worldwide pandemic. He thinks, and I'm like,
crazy.
Yeah.
I mean, how naive we were. And I was like, I remember I just totally remember you being like, aren't you a little freaked out by this? And I was so naive. And I was like, oh, please, it's fine. I was equating it to, honestly, Ebola. Because remember, I was kind of freaked out when the Ebola thing happened and what's her face in New York went for soup. Remember the chick? I think she was like in the media somewhere. I forget her name right now. But she went to get soup and everyone was vilifying her. But two different type of things, obviously.
But Ebola kills you so quickly.
Exactly. And that's why I was so freaked out about it. But we didn't know.
That's the one I want to get. I don't want to get the one that takes you a year to die and you're.
That is awful. That is an awful death. No, thank you. No, thank you.
I think you have the RFK worm in your head, personally.
Oh God, should I eat it? Yeah. I'm a little hungry. I haven't had breakfast.
Yeah, by the way, this Ricky Bear, I don't know what he's talking about here. Let me read this again.
Okay.
This one guy is saying, well, I'll get to that in a second.
Uh-huh.
I love I have to say, the sort of unnatural to not see all our viewers.
Oh, I guess there's something happening in the comments. Some of the people are not seeing all the live comments when you're in the live chat, but the live chat is happening.
It is happening. Interesting. I'm sorry about that, Ricky. I don't know what's
why
going
that's
on.
happening though.
Yeah. As I read through comments here, and obviously we're talking about a lot, but this is kind of a Friday recap, and we're going to do this for about another 15, 20 minutes. And then Nikki's got to go. She's
then I got to do my own show.
Yeah. Oh, what time's your show?
At 10 o'clock. We're going to do a Mother's Day show. It's okay that you haven't wished me a happy Mother's Day yet.
Well, you haven't wished me. It's not Mother's Day yet. It's Sunday.
It starts now, man.
And why do you have James's coffee cup? Best dad ever.
I know, best. This is his Father's Day cup. I'm having it on Mother's
Yeah.
Day weekend. James is my husband, for everybody that doesn't know. But yeah, Mother's Day show. We're going to debate who gets Mother's Day: the new moms who are in the trenches, or the old moms who have been through it.
Here's the question: is as the husband, do I have to do something for you for Mother's Day? You're not my mother. You're my wife.
I squeezed out children for you.
No,
I squeezed out children for you. Yes. At least breakfast.
Wait,
and the remote control. Those are my two rules.
We were in there.
Oh, please.
I'll never forget any aspect of childbirth. I remember my wife laying there, legs spread, screaming in pain, writhing in agony. Who'd have thought 9 months later we'd have a baby? Let me tell you. Sorry, you've heard that joke, right? Yeah.
Yes.
Anyway, all right. So yeah, this is an ongoing experiment, but we like doing this. We're gonna try to every Friday morning for you. Thank you, Kenneth.
You know what I wanted your perspective on though?
Yeah.
Did you watch? Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
Go ahead. No.
Did you watch the Tom Brady roast?
I did.
You did? I haven't seen it yet. What did you think as a comedian? Because so many stories are coming out about it.
Nikki Glaser is
I saw a couple of clips of her. Like the whole crypto joke was really funny.
Yeah,
with Gronk.
Even but she had one about too where she said, "Tom, you've got 7 rings." Well, no, 8 if you count the one that Giselle gave you back. But it was nasty. There's some really nasty stuff.
I love roasts though.
The funnest, if you didn't see it, the part I enjoyed the most was watching Kevin Hart laugh. And that you remember when he did that bad joke about his son, that anti-gay kind of joke.
I know.
And I was kind of harsh on him. But I've totally rescinded. He seems like, like again, I've been talking into a microphone since I was 15. If you could go back, since most of it was before the internet,
right?
You could go back and find really some stupid stuff I did. In fact, when I was on my first radio job in DC, I was a comedian and I opened comedy clubs.
Right.
And it's at WMAL radio in Washington, DC, which was, again, number 8 market, one of the biggest stations in the country. And they just gave me a job. I'd been part-time as a disc jockey in college, and I'd been on a lot of radio as a comedian doing stuff. They figured that since I was a comic, I could do this, and the two have nothing in common. And so they gave me the gig in Washington, D.C. in 1993. Internet really wasn't there. Cable TV was barely there. So I would have to go to a newsstand and pick up papers from around the world and come and go through them to try to come up with stories. And it was insane. And so every few nights I would go back and I would steal the little disc that they do to record the show and throw it away so nobody could ever find my show if I said something. Because I did occasionally, like I had some comedians on there. I had Bill Hicks on once, and he goes, he's talking. All of a sudden he drops in the MF.
Oh no!
And we're live, and there's a 4-second delay, and the button is on the other side. I dive across, and I don't get there in time. It's still cut, has a little bit. But I guess, it is interesting to see how, my perspective of how the world changed over the last, 25 years, 35 years, and I think part of it is that social media allowed people like Trump, to have a diving board that he wouldn't have had in the past. We would have had, right?
Well, what's interesting is a lot of people say that former President Barack Obama was the first one that really used Twitter to really galvanize young voters, especially, and that he benefited in what many say is a positive way of using social media. And then instantly, as most things do, once everyone hops on board, it gets conspiracy theories and racists take over. And Donald Trump has utilized it to spread misinformation. He just has. And he's brainwashed so many Americans, which is really, really sad.
Well, it's the conspiracies that piss me off. And by the way, so Friday mornings, you're doing live show at 9 now. just started watching your podcast with Tom Arnold. Still trying to understand the schedule for that. You're somewhat frustrating, Chip.
Well, that's always true. That's always true.
Well, here's the thing. Okay. I'm doing this podcast with Nikki.
He's doing so many things. Let's just preface this. Okay. So get out your pencils, boys and girls.
No, they're real simple. So you and I worked together 4 or 5 years on the air in San Francisco. And I thoroughly enjoy Nikki, and Nikki's already her one commentary that she did was kick ass. So again, check her out. But so the Tom Arnold podcast is Tom is great, and I enjoy doing the podcast with him. We didn't do that this week because we some things that Tom had to do, but we're going to get back on the air next week with Tom Arnold. Later on today, I do a podcast recorded with Frank Figluzzi, and we're going to be speaking with Congressman Jared Huffman from the Bay Area.
Good.
Yeah, Jared's great. Last week we had on a guy named David Sanger, which you can find, which is a frightening interview. He's the author of a New York Times Pulitzer Prize winning writer. And he wrote a book. He has a new book out called New Cold Wars, which is scary. But The Perfect Weapon is about cyber terrorism. And so, again, that's what we're trying to do. And with Frank Figluzzi, who you've seen on MSNBC, Frank and I are trying to work this out. Frank is he wants to do a show that is not quite as political, more about what's happening. Right. And I'm up for that. I mean, you know, I've danced in all the different little political circles, and
I love true crime. I mean, that's just awesome.
Oh yeah, his new book is coming out too, which is about serial killers who are truck drivers across the country. And there's been about 800 people killed by these people over the past 30 years or so. So we're getting to that as well. And anyway, that's kind of it. The Brooklyn Dad, who had, but this is great. If you don't know Brooklyn Dad, I'm sure if you're on Twitter, you know exactly who he is. Mm-hmm. Brooklyn had a tweet mentioned in the hush money trial. It was something that had been retweeted by Michael Cohen, and Michael and Brooklyn know each other pretty well. Brooklyn knows a lot of people, you know, he's a great guy. And he and I were talking before. I was actually invited him in the show today, but he couldn't come on. But this show
scheduling things are hard for people that have a bunch of other things going on.
Right. And we're going to have some guests in the future on this stuff too. But right now, I just kind of want to talk to you, again, Susan, thank you so much. Again, we enjoy it. And again, Frank Figluzzi, did you spell his name right? No, it's 2 Z's, but you were close, Diana. I screwed it up. So I called him Figluizzi for like the first 6 interviews.
I remember that. I remember looking at him like, how do you say his name? Because you say it like 3 different ways.
Now, not anymore. I've been getting it right for a long time.
So it's how do you say it?
Figluzzi.
Figluzzi. Yeah. Okay, got it.
Yeah, it's funny here. May you drop Mr. Cohen? We don't. Mr. Cohen's not on our shows, but I'll tell you this: I've had long conversations with Michael, and just like I've had long conversations with Joe Walsh, I've had. I really believe that a lot of these guys like Michael Cohen and Walsh and others who were hardcore Trumpers are. It's funny when you start in talk radio, and I had no idea what I was doing, and maybe you could say that now too. But the people, there's an adulation you get when you're on a particular side and you're all in. Of course. It's not as much on the progressive side because we tend to beat each other up, but on the other side, they all feel like they were all out to get them in the media and everything like that. And so, I've had long conversations with more with Joe than Michael Cohen, and I truly believe that both of them regret deeply, what they did. I think both of them are still Republicans. I know Joe is, although he's voting for Biden. He's voting for Biden.
Exactly.
But I get it. I don't know. Diskover. I don't know that name, but anyway, thank you for that comment. I appreciate it. Let me get a couple more in here. That's funny. The Von Schitzenpants. Kenny did that video. If you get a chance, it's got like 500,000 views on Really American
That
Media.
is the best nickname ever. I mean,
I don't know. Come on. There's other ones.
On Schitzenpants. I mean, come on.
My latest name is Fatty Bananas. That's a good one. Fatty Bananas. Captain Man Titties. Tiny Fingers. So anyway. Kenneth writes, it's not right that journalists don't fact check Trump in real time.
Yes.
Yeah, that's hard to do. It's hard to say. It's hard to do. I mean, he lies after lie after lie. Which one do you pick?
Well, and again, like even when they do after the fact, right? Like, okay, he's going to talk and then we go back. Everyone just think everybody is so polarized that even when you present facts, which is where we find ourselves right now, even when you're like, no, he said this, even when you have the receipts, everyone's like, nope, nope, not going to believe it. And then you're just wasting your breath. Like, people that understand that this is reality and this actually happened, understand it. And those that are total Trumpers will never believe facts that are negative about him. So there's no point.
Well, yeah. I mean, I, I think one of the things that's so frustrating I mean, my wife watches Nicole Wallace every day.
Mm-hmm.
And she's so good, and she's again a former Republican. She was in the Bush administration. She worked for him. But I think a lot of people have realized that, whatever that progressive thing means, to me, what progressive means is that the government is there to serve everyone first, not just corporations, but its role is to protect people, right? And that includes a safety net. That includes social services, everything from daycare to Medi-Cal or
giving
Medicare.
us stuff for our tax money. Yeah, that'd be nice.
Right. Calling Medicare and Social Security entitlements is bullshit because we all put money into it. It's not like we're entitled. It's our investment.
Yeah, you took my money. I don't get a say in that. You take it.
Yeah.
Give it back.
I mean, I'm open to conversations. By the way, just Frank Figluzzi just texted me, and our guest next week is going to be Adam Kinzinger. So we're going to have him on.
Wow, that's going to be must-watch YouTube.
Actually, he just moved into Frank's neighborhood in Texas.
Really? That's interesting.
He contacted him. I think they had coffee this morning, and so he just got back to me with that. So anyway, yeah, as far as like scheduling these things, if you subscribe,
hit the bell too,
and hit notifications on Really America, and you'll get a notification when we're going to do this. So you can be part of it, and we do love. I mean, this is, remember when we did talk radio, we love talking to people, especially stupid people. I did, just because I was.
You'd get excited. Let's say that you'd get excited.
Yeah. Anyway, all right. How's your time? You got to roll here, right?
Yeah, I'm going to be sliding over to my Nikki Medoro show right here on YouTube. So
okay. Well, damn. Let me see here. I wanted to play you one more thing here.
Yeah, go ahead. We have 10 minutes. 5 minutes. Let's do 5 minutes.
Okay, we'll do that. It is interesting when I listen to. I'm not gonna play that. But right now again there's a lot happening politically. The other thing is that I saw, and I did a video on this yesterday too. Jamie Raskin standing up to the Republicans who want to have a constitutional amendment that says only citizens are counted in the census, which is exactly the opposite reason why we haven't done that for 200 years.
Yeah,
we want to know how many people are in our country, and I would think that Republicans would want the facts too. And they're like, well, we don't want them to vote. Well, I mean, we're going to include kids in the census too, and they don't vote, right?
Yeah.
And he made a great point. And again, and he said something that I did not know about the Pledge of Allegiance. The Pledge of Allegiance was written by a Baptist abolitionist in response to Southern states still raising the Confederate flag and saluting it. So he wanted a poem or something that we could recite, and he came up with that. And it didn't have under God in it until after Brown versus the Board of Education case, which got rid of racial discrimination in schools. So they put under God as kind of a slap to the abolitionists and to those who were for the Supreme Court's decision in Brown versus the Board of Education. So it was interesting for him to bring that point up, and he talked about the Republican. Jamie Raskin is a national treasure, if you ask me.
Yeah.
Him and Moskowitz. Is it Jared Moskowitz? Is it Representative Moskowitz?
Oh, okay.
I love that cat. Oh yeah. Oh, you know who he is. He's awesome. All right. I know you got to get out of here.
Well, thanks for having me, Chip.
What's up? All right. So we'll see you. I'll talk to you in the next couple of days. But everybody can catch us back here a week from today. And it's called What the Franklin. That's Nikki Medoro. I'm Chip Franklin. Go. I'll talk to you later. See you.
Bye.
Bye. All right. So I'm going to get more of your comments here before we do roll out. I want to remind you that we will drop on Monday the podcast. I am actually going to be 2 podcasts drop next week, not brand new ones, but on Monday morning, we'll drop Frank Figluzzi. It's called Frankly is the name of it. And you'll hear from Jared Huffman, who is a congressman from the Bay Area here. And it's all, the show is about, the subtitle of the show with Frank that I do is called A Hard Look at America's Soft Spots. And I think that is an apolitical approach. I don't know how you guys personally feel about what's happening in Gaza right now, but it does present problems for us as a nation and things that we have to ascertain. Chris Wray, the director of the FBI, came out a few weeks ago and said that, hey, we have to be prepared for the possibility of another terrorist attack here. To which I say, first of all, thank you to the FBI and the intelligence agencies for having protected us the last 23 years after 9/11 and doing a tremendous job. I talk a lot about how we haven't seen terrorists flowing across our southern border. And I say that, and Frank says, well, we don't entirely know that. Again, Frank Figliuzzi, if you didn't know, is a former assistant director of the FBI. And so it's interesting because I have, I'll dance on both sides of the line, if whatever I think is appropriate and right for me. And, that's what I love to talk to you guys about because, nobody, what's the old saying? Nobody ever learned anything from talking. This is Laurie. Raskin's definitely a national treasure. Maybe he'll come back to politics someday when the madness ends. His health seems good, and that's good to hear. I'm sorry to hear that. That's not good. Thank you. Progressivism. Yeah. To me, the great definition of progressivism is, the responsibility of our union and our republic. And it's not, again, it's, when we give tax breaks to corporations, we're given the traditional trickle-down explanation that if we give a corporation tax breaks, they're going to reinvest that money through research and development, and they'll hire more people. But that's not how it works. You don't hire people that you don't need. Why do you hire people? You hire people because demand is so great that you can't serve it. So you hire more people to reach that demand. How do you create that demand? Well, it's not by giving tax breaks to the rich. It's by giving tax breaks to the lower, middle, and medium class of America who will spend that money. We do it time and time again, and we see it works. John Maynard Keynes, an economist who was an anti sort of Adam Smith supply side guy, he came and he said, the supply side people will tell you in the long run, it all works out. And he used to say, well, in the long run, we'll all be dead. Whatever economic policy we have in place, whatever political process we choose to follow, it has to serve the people first. And that means, yes, Social Security, and that means Medicare. And yes, that means child care programs. Yes, that means making sure Flint, Michigan has clean water. Yes, it means that towns in Mississippi need the federal government because their state government cannot properly supervise many of these places, like, these chicken farms where the runoff from that, and they put in these creeks, it pollutes. Everybody goes, well, it seems organic. No, it's not. It creates a poisonous, everything from the diseases that will be contracted just from all this foul from we saw during COVID, but the zoonotics. This is a real opportunity for us to, as progressives, to come forward and explain to people, especially poor Republicans, how progressive policies help the country much more than the policies of the Republican Party currently, especially this Republican Party. I'll get off my my soapbox right now. All right, Chuck. Let me get this again here. Reaganomics, not exactly. In fact, who was? Do you remember who was the first real critic of Reaganomics? Ironically, was his vice president, George Bush Sr. He called it voodoo economics, I believe, in 1980 when he was running against in the primaries before Reagan won the Republican nomination and defeated the first president I ever voted for, Jimmy Carter. Let's save democracy from Kalina before 2024, before arguing who the nominee should be in 2028. We don't have an election in 2028. If this year goes badly, that seems to feel that way, doesn't it? I can't wait till we get past this election and President Biden wins and the Dems sweep the Hill. We can finally get some real meaningful work done without the Republican jackasses getting in the way. Here's a frightening thought. and I didn't do this for Nikki because it freaks her out, but if Trump should somehow win, or a Trump type character, and they get 67 votes in the Senate and run the House, they can do whatever they want. They can impeach all of the liberal Supreme Court justices and load it with, Clarence Thomas's. They can literally do anything they want, and we've seen that. And do you have any doubt that Trump as president is not going to just trash the Constitution? And I'm going to ask you this: who will stop him? Even if we have the House and Senate, we need 67 votes in the Senate to remove him. And we've seen Republicans kind of like, the post-Sandy Hook thing. There's some places they just won't go. I mean, if you weren't going to have gun control after Sandy Hook, you're never going to have it. And if you're not going to have control of this man after he sends 5,000 people to the Capitol to kill Nancy Pelosi and Mike Pence in order to stay in power, if we won't change things from that, then we're not going to change it ever. So this is an important election, just to put it mildly, right? Yeah, I know. Well, I mean, the fact that you have people like Tim Scott and other Republicans saying that if they lose, it can't be a fair election. I mean, first of all, you're a bitch if you say that. You're just a big bitch. You can't even stand up and fight like a man. So, yeah, and I apologize for that word because it's often associated with women, and I don't mean it in that way at all. Kenneth writes, I was thinking that earlier. If you give a bunch of money and weapons to a specific faction in the Middle East, you'll likely be targeted by retaliatory terrorism. Well, I don't know how you guys feel about Biden telling Israel that you can't invade, you can't send troops in there. Hamas is a freaking horrible presence, as is Hezbollah, as is Houthis, all of them, Al-Qaeda, ISIS, whatever. And they should be eliminated because they're just stone cold murderers. But not all Palestinians, and especially children, buy into that because they're just children. So there's got to be some way that make this work. All right. We're talking about names for Trump. Pustulant skin tag. Thank you, Blaine. I like that one too. All right. So here's the deal. We do this on every Friday. My email address is chip@chipfranklin.com. If you got any ideas or comments, please send them to me. I'll get back to you. Coming up later. So our next podcast to drop will be with Frank Figluzzi on Monday. And I'll be speaking again we'll both be speaking with Congressman Jared Huffman. And then the following week, we have just scheduled during the show, we scheduled it with Adam Kinzinger. And again, those always drop on Monday. So you can find them by going, again, if you subscribe and hit notifications right here at Really American, we'll let you know when it's time. So it works like that. All right. I'm going to roll, but thank you so much for being here. We're going to knock out some stuff, and I got to record another podcast, but we really appreciate it. And I say that for everybody here at Really American. We're trying to do a yeoman's job. We're trying to help position candidates in different parts. We're going to be working with supporting a PAC to help us get voters to the polls in the fall. All this happens at Really American on YouTube. Check it out. Again, it's Really American. You'll find all my stuff and some of the other great contributors there. I want to again thank Nikki for being with us, and I want to thank all you guys for taking the time to watch us. Again, I'm Chip Franklin. You can follow me at chipfranklin.com or go to, again, Really American and find my videos as well. Until next time, check out, I got videos coming up this afternoon, and there's some right there right now. Please subscribe, hit that notifications button. Till next time, I'm Chip Franklin with What the Franklin. See ya.